Welcome to the Mayor of Money podcast with former Burlington Mayor Rick Goldring of Goldring Financial Leadership. In this podcast, we provide successful business owners, including doctors and dentists, with insights to minimize tax and risk while maximizing retirement income and future legacy. Join us for this journey as Rick draws from years of experience and guest experts, including successful entrepreneurs, to provide unique strategies and approaches to estate and financial planning matters, as well as business in general. Now, on to the show.
And that is a perfect entree to my guest today on the podcast, Ron Foxcroft, the founder and CEO of Fox 40 International, the chair of Hamilton Airport Board, the chair of Fluke Transport, and many other things. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Ron before I ask him the first question. But Ron developed the best whistle in the world and founded a company built on innovation. He's been featured in the New York Times, CBC, and ESPN, and he's had an audience with the Queen at Buckingham Palace and named Citizen of the Year for Hamilton and Burlington. In 2019, he was appointed to the Order of Canada, one of Canada's highest honors. And he's received honorary degrees from major colleges and universities and been inducted in various sports and business halls of fame. And he takes great pride in his dedicated and talented team of employees at Fox 40 and the loyal customers in which Fox 40 partners with worldwide. And among other things, he is the author. He's the author of this book, this wonderful book called The 40 Ways of the Fox that was released earlier this year. And it's fun to read, it's easy to implement, and an indispensable tool for people navigating the new entrepreneurial economy, and a handbook for young people hoping to fashion a career in business. And not only that, the net proceeds of this book go to Liberty for Youth and City Kids, both wonderful Hamilton charities that really support youth in a big way. So Ron, welcome to the Mayor of Money.
Thank you very much, Rick. That was a great introduction. And you know, Rick, I was your greatest fan when you were the mayor of Burlington. A lot of great things happened when you were the mayor of Burlington, but your audience, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell your audience how you set aside an NHL career to become the mayor of Burlington. Because as the story goes, I understand you played with some pretty outstanding National Hockey League players like Lance Netherly, Tim Bothwell, and right? Is that Rick? Is that correct?
I certainly played with Lance, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you scored a goal, didn't you?
He assisted on my very first goal in House League hockey when we were 8 years of age.
And you set aside an NHL career. Now, the truth is, I've been told, I don't know if this is true or not, the only thing that kept you out of the NHL was talent.
That's true. The only thing. Yeah, the only thing. That's all. Nothing else.
Even though you played with some great people.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. It was fun when Lance was inducted into the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame, because he told the story about how he assisted on my first goal ever in minor hockey, and I still remember it to this day. It was at the south end of Nelson Arena, and I can still remember it. But
that's great.
But listen, I'm thrilled to have you on today, Ron. I mean, when I think about entrepreneurism, when I think about passion for community, I think of Ron Foxcroft, because you exude confidence, you exude charm, you exude enthusiasm, infectious enthusiasm for everything that you're involved in, your communities, your businesses, sports officiating, so many things you've contributed to. But I want to go back to your high school years. In your book, you write about negotiating your way out of high school. Can you tell us about that?
Well, you know what? I lived in Aldershot, but Aldershot High School, where your mom was a teacher.
Right.
They didn't have a football team. And I wanted to play for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I was a quarterback and a punter with the wind. Anyway, I arranged with the school board not to go to Aldershot High School, but to go to Waterdown High School. And they actually had a bus from Aldershot going to Waterdown High School. But after football practice, we had to hitchhike home. But really and truly, Rick, I only went to Waterdown High School to play football hopefully get to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, my beloved team, and to play some basketball. And I seldom attended class. I wasn't what you'd call a stellar student, but we started a little business there. Every Thursday was detention night. And unfortunately, I got assigned to the detention room every Thursday night. And I saw an opportunity because there was all these other students. And what they did then, this is before calculators, computers, and all that sort of stuff. They gave you this big multiplication question where you had to calculate it out by hand and come up with the right answer before you could leave the detention room. So I knew where the answer was to the detention question. It was in the Gestetner room. Now, Gestetner, most of your listeners won't even know what that is, but it's like a photocopy room. And I knew who had the key to the Gestetner room where the answer was. It was the janitor. So I went to the janitor and I said, I can sell the answer to these 20 or 30 kids in the detention room, and they can get it right, probably leave, the detention room a lot sooner. So I cut a deal with the janitor. We sold the answer back then, Rick, $1 an answer. So we were raking in the cash, and 50% went to the janitor and 50% went to me. It was a heck of a business, and it was all cash. And unfortunately, Mr. Walden wasn't as impressed with my entrepreneurial endeavors as I was. And I got called into the principal's office, and Mr. Walden said, Ronald, you're a problem. And I said, Mr. Walden, I can solve your problem. Just give me 50 on everything and I'm gone. And I left before graduating from high school. I left and started a landscape business and so on. But the real story, 50 years after I left, some people would say got expelled, I went back to Waterdown High School to give a speech. And the principal, Michelle Visca, introduced me as a famous Waterdown High School graduate. And I had to stop her and say, Madam Principal, I'm sorry, maybe an infamous Waterdown High School attendee. And it was 50 years to the day that I got expelled. Anyway, she said, look, if you speak to the graduating class at Hamilton Place, 2,000 people, we're going to give you your high school graduation. So 50 years after I left high school, Rick, I got not an honorary, the real deal. I've actually got a high school graduation. Now, most of my friends dispute that, but it's on page 13 in the book. Michelle Visca actually confirms that I have a high school graduation diploma.
That's an amazing story. So was that the first entrepreneurial opportunity you had, was selling answers to kids in the detention room? Or did your entrepreneur career start earlier than that?
Oh, no, actually a little bit earlier than that. I was cutting lawns on Partridge Drive, and I met the owner's son of Dairy Queen. He was from Georgia, and he lived right beside me on Partridge Drive. So I was cutting all the lawns at 14 years of age on Partridge Drive in Aldershot, near Aldershot High School. And so I went to him and actually cut his lawn, Mr. Crookshanks. And I said, listen, you're establishing on Lakeshore in Burlington the head office for Dairy Queen. Remember that, Rick?
I do.
Yeah, right. I think it's right now at the corner of Pearl Street and Lakeshore.
Okay.
It was in a house, and they had a beautiful lawn. So I actually got the contract to cut the lawn of the head office, the Canadian head office for Dairy Queen, because all I needed was transportation to get my lawnmower there. I went inside the head office, and there was a few executives, and I said, you know what? If I cut your lawn at your home, you could spend more time achieving at Dairy Queen and probably more time playing golf at Burlington Golf and Country Club. So I ended up getting the contract for all those guys that worked at Dairy Queen. Unfortunately, the next year, they paved the lawn for parking. Now, I never found out the truth, whether they paved the lawn for parking because my lawn cutting was crummy, or they really did need, Rick, it's always been a mystery. And of course, Mr. Crookshank would never tell me. He moved back to Georgia. I never found out the real reason why they paved the Dairy Queen. Well, now it's all torn down and there's big development there and so on and so on. But it was a beautiful place on Lakeshore. And they had a little Dairy Queen store there as well.
So what influenced you at the beginning, Ron? You have a lot of drive now. You had a lot of drive then. What influenced you to go down the entrepreneurial path as opposed to being an employee? Did you ever have a real job where you actually got paid from somebody else on a T4 salary, or have you always been doing your own things?
I've only had one boss in my entire life, my wife, Marie.
I knew where you're going with that.
Yeah, and she tells me what to do and when to do it. But way back in Aldershot, my mom and dad would always remind me, Ronald, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the neighborhood, but you always have to be seen as the hardest working guy in the neighborhood. And when I got expelled from high school, I was unemployable, no education, and I wasn't too bright. But mom and dad always reminded me, mom was a church organist at East Plains Church. My dad was a printer, really hardworking. And they said, don't worry about, being smart, but you better worry about always being seen as the hardest working guy in the neighborhood. And I said to my parents one day, what if I end up working for a dumb boss? A boss that hasn't got my work ethic. And that always bothered me, Rick. Working, there would be nothing worse in life than working for a dumb boss. And there's a lot of people, in the world that work for people that they really don't respect. I later found that out. So my dad says, well, why do you need a boss? Why do you need a boss? And so I had my landscape business going, and I'd had that little business going at school, all cash. And I kind of like that independence. You make a mistake, and I realized that it's never a mistake if you treat it as a learning experience. Well, then I got a job with a construction company, and I had a great boss. He was amazing, and he was tough. And I found out that he was tough because he cared. And I learned a lot, that very short period of time there where I actually did have a real boss. And in basketball refereeing, I had a boss, Kitch McPherson, who became my mentor. And I dedicated the book, The 40 Ways of the Fox, to Kitch McPherson, who one day, he was really tough. He was really, really tough because the first game that I refereed, I got paid 75 cents. And the people that ran the league wanted change because I was rotten. And I admitted I was rotten. And Kitch came to me and says, you were rotten, but I can make you better. And he was tough. And that was fantastic. But mom and dad said, you know what? If you're worried about having a dumb boss, you don't need a boss. So then, a few years later, Fluke Transport became available. They were going to retire. And I made a deal without any money, but I was refereeing, and I had a little bit of money coming in from refereeing. But I do remember after buying Fluke Transport, I had $65 in the bank and 3 months behind on my rented car and 2 hungry kids, Steve and Dave. But it's been great.
What you're saying is when you bought Fluke Transport, it was a real stretch.
Oh,
it was a real stretch for you. But you did it. You didn't hesitate, or did you? Did you spend a lot of time thinking about it, or you just did it?
I was unemployable. So my one option, create my own job. Rick, I didn't hesitate. It was a stretch. I'm pretty good with numbers. and I had $37 a week for groceries and $65 in the bank with a little bit of a refereeing income and hungry Steve and Dave. And it wasn't a stretch because I basically wasn't that bright. So, but it never left me that mom and dad said, you always got to be seen as the hardest working guy in the neighborhood. And now, we've got Fluke and we've got Fox 40 and we've got some other things like, the airport. And I've worked for the NBA now for 18 years. So my work week now at my age, it's been reduced in the last 3 years, but I'm down to about an 80-hour work week. But when I was working for the NBA and doing the evaluations for the referees after doing the game report, my work week was about 110 hours, loving every minute of it, just loving every minute. And I still work for the NBA and still chair the airport and a few other boards. But mom and dad always said, give back where you live, give back where you work. And that taught me, give back to Burlington where we live and give back to Hamilton where you work.
So have you always had, though, this natural self-confidence? Your parents ingrained some characteristics into you with regard to hard work, that's for sure. But you're always positive, you're always upbeat. You look at failure as a learning opportunity. Have you ever gone through a real challenging time in your life where things haven't been as good as maybe you would have liked them to have been?
Rick, when we bought Fluke, I had no self-confidence because, very quietly, it really bothered me that I couldn't write very well. I couldn't speak very well, couldn't speak in front of 3 people. But I could referee. And to referee, I needed to blow a whistle and communicate with the players and the coaches. And that gave me confidence that I didn't have. Everybody has a role. Everybody in a company, if there's 300 employees, everybody is important because everybody has an important role. The janitor has an important role. The CEO has an important role to lead. But Rick, I had no self-confidence, zero. Refereeing helped, communicating with coaches and players helped. And I took a course on Dale Carnegie on communications. And that really helped. That was, Kevin Crone, he owns Dale Carnegie. He's from Burlington. And I got to tell you, going back, taking Dale Carnegie to learn and instill confidence. Like, it's really a problem in business if you have great difficulty being able to communicate in a group beyond 3 people, beyond 2 people. That was my problem. I couldn't communicate, but I learned from officiating and from going to Dale Carnegie and from watching, being told you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them proportionately. And you learn, especially being a referee, to learn listening skills. And that was the big thing. Watching achievers like you, when you were the mayor, I watched you, how you handled certain situations. And in watching you as the mayor of Burlington, handling delicate, challenging situations, I adopted to what I call R&D. And a lot of people say that's research and development. Rob and duplicate. I'm going to take some of the skills that I saw the mayor of Burlington, which at the time was you, and other people, and rob and duplicate some of those skills and put it into your repertoire of talent.
But this is just a natural thing for you. You're always looking to improve. You're always looking to get better.
Rick, tomorrow I'm 76 years old. just starting to achieve, just starting to get better, just starting to learn. Life is going to school. Life is life learning. We have so much to learn, and we have so much to achieve. I want to be a better entrepreneur. I want to help my team at Fox 40 achieve great things, help our team at Fluke, at the airport, in the NBA. I want to be better at my job with the NBA, because life is life learning. And you never come to work any day of your career and don't go home and look in the mirror and say, I've learned something. You must go home and you have to admit, what did I learn today? And I'm going to go home tonight, and because there's no Raptor game on tonight, and I'm going to think, what did I learn today?
But you mentioned that you're turning 76 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And in your book, you say you can rest when you're dead. You only get 4 or 5 hours sleep,
Yeah,
supposedly. Is that true?
absolutely true. I learned
4
how
or
to
5
sleep.
hours.
Yeah. I can function on 5 hours because I learned that as a referee. See, as a referee, I went, we were running Fluke and Fox 40, and I was refereeing to put groceries on the table. So I'd get on the airplane on Monday and Tuesday, always refereed Wednesday in Canada, because Kitch said, never forget where you got your start. So I'd work Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday in Canada, Thursday in the States, never worked Friday, never ever worked Friday because I was exhausted by then, and then worked Saturday and Sunday and flew home. So I got to learn how to sleep on an airplane. And if the flight home was an hour or two, if it was 2 hours, it was a bonus, because the minute I hit that seat on the airplane, I was asleep. So for 23 years in the NCAA, if I could get 4 hours sleep, that was a real big bonus. It was because I had to go back to work. You know, after my game at Madison Square Garden on Monday, there was 5 a.m. flights back in those days. It was a different world back then. I had to get back to work. So yeah, I sleep for about 5 hours, and I'm happy with that.
But I think one of the things are, when you're really looking forward to getting up in the morning, you're not going to sleep in. You're going to get the sleep you need, and you're going to get up and have an inspiring day.
That's exactly right. And when I come to work, it's like going to a big game. I can't wait to get to work and do things and communicate with people. And I guess, Rick, the most important thing, learn from people. There isn't anybody that I will talk to today that I'm not going to take a nugget from that conversation and learn, because you can learn something. Everybody is good at something. And that's why I always keep saying everybody in the company has an important role. Everybody has to do their thing. And in this place, you know, our design people are somewhat smarter than me, our salespeople, our marketing people, our drivers, our mechanics, everybody's smarter than me at what they do. But my job is to be positive and create an environment for everybody to succeed. And that is creating a positive environment, because you know what? Anybody can be a critic. Anybody can be, and being a critic means you're negative. And I haven't got any time for anybody that wants to be negative, because it's a poor me, never do syndrome. Being negative, you gotta, as a leader, you gotta be positive, and you gotta create an environment for all your people to succeed and feel good about what they're doing.
So you have would you call your business a family business with 3 employees involved?
Oh yeah.
And Marie as well?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
Marie's involved. You know what, Rick? When I was refereeing, I used to carry dimes in my pocket, American dimes, so I could call Marie back at the office and find out what was going on, and also so I could call my kids. So when I would land, I'd have an American dime, go to a payphone. There was no cell phones then, and call Marie. And I'd call the kids. After the game, I'd call Marie. And when I get to the airport in the morning, I call Marie. I always had a pocket full of dimes. We're a family business. That's true. We got Marie, Steve, Dave, and Ronnie, but all of our employees are family. Like we try and communicate that once you're here, you're family. And we try and treat everybody like family, and they in turn treat us like family. So we don't have that complicated layers of management, corporate structure. Rick, you know, I learned from my mentors, don't create layers of management. You know, for me, I answer my own phone. If I'm available and not on the phone, I answer my own phone and return my own emails. And you probably know that.
yeah,
And
for sure.
I don't have a gatekeeper because I'm the least important person in our company. So we like to say that we're a family business, and everybody here is part of the family.
When you look back at your career, is there anything that stands out that you're most proud of? Because you've done so many things in business, you've done so many things contributing to your community in different charitable organizations. You met with the Queen, representing the Argylls and Southerners. You've had an amazing life. You're the Order of Canada. You have an honorary degree from a number of different colleges and universities for a guy that didn't finish high school. What are you most proud of?
Two things: raising a family that have achieved. I'm really proud of my family. Now, Marie, you know, how she ever put up with me, that's a miracle. That's a miracle. It really is. On our wedding day, it was back in 1987. I was trying to launch the Fox 40 whistle, and I went around the wedding reception with prototype Fox 40 whistles to show all the people that attended our wedding. A lot of them were American, you know, sports people that attended our wedding at Burlington Golf and Country Club. And we went to our honeymoon, and Marie had booked the establishment. And darn if I realized that the hotel we were staying at didn't have ESPN.
Oh,
So we moved. I convinced Marie. So the fact that she's put up with me, that's a miracle. But, you know, Steve, Dave, and Ronnie have really achieved. They've, you know, I was thinking the other day, Rick, how many families in Burlington and Hamilton are employed by the CFL, the NFL, the NBA, and the NCAA? I don't think any.
I wouldn't think so.
Steve's with the NFL for 28 years and the NBA. Dave's in the CFL. Ronnie's a referee and an amazing golfer. He just shot 68 in the Burlington Club Championship, came in second, and he's a great achiever working here. And so I guess there's two things that, you know, raising a family. And the other thing, I really believe we have created an environment at our places of work for achievers to achieve. Because for achievers to achieve, they have to have an environment that allows them the opportunity. We don't micromanage. I was 37 years old, and I realized I wasn't too bright as a leader. I felt that everything I did at Fluke and Fox 40, I had to be a micromanager, which I realized, later at 37 years of age, I think I became a leader and realized I had to create an environment. An environment for people to succeed does not include or allow you to be a micromanager. And Rick, I was so bad at being a micromanager, and your companies can achieve so much more by delegating and by achieving and by, shall we say, recruiting people that can achieve if you provide the right environment and the right type of leadership without micromanaging.
Is there a book? If you could have one book in your library, what book would it be?
Oh, yeah. James Collins, he wrote a book, Good to Great.
Okay.
Ron Joyce sat me down one day, and he said to me, he was explaining how he went into the Tim Hortons and there wasn't enough jam in the jam donuts, strawberry jam donuts. And I was with him, and he said to them, or they said to him, this strawberry jam donut is really good. And he turned and said, there's not enough jam in this strawberry donut, and it's not great. I'll never forget that. He said, good is never good enough.
Yeah.
And that book, Going from Good to Great, it's really difficult, Rick. You've been very successful in your whole career. And so many people like you that have been successful, they're never satisfied being good.
True.
Good is never good enough. And that meeting with Ron Joyce has stuck with me. Good is never good enough. And when we did the whistle, our engineer, Chuck Shepard, just a brilliant man. When we did the whistle, it took 3.5 years. I had no money. I borrowed $150,000, and Marie said, you got 2 prototypes, $75,000 each. You're pretty stupid. And my engineer said to me, we had an engineer, a scientist, a PhD in sound, and a music teacher help us with the design. But Chuck Shepard from Oakville said to me, Ron, we have designed the best whistle in the world. You have to dedicate your life to making it better. And for 33 years, our team have dedicated ourselves to making it better and making the company better. Good is not good enough. If you don't come to work trying to provide a product or a service that's the best in the world, get out. Leave it. Get out and go and do something else. You've got to come to work dedicated to providing service and products that are the best in the world, because you may not reach that, but I'll tell you, the journey is amazing. Trying to be the best in the world means the journey is amazing. So that's what we're trying to do at whatever we do. Just try and be, in your case, when you were the mayor, I want to try and be the best mayor in the world. And I remember introducing you at events, and obviously I tell the story about why you set aside an NHL career. I always used to introduce you as the best mayor in the world, because I know you were trying to be the best mayor in the world, and the journey was exciting.
The journey was always exciting. The journey is still exciting, and it's still exciting for you. And that's what's great to spend time with you, Ron, because your enthusiasm about life, about business, about family, about community is infectious. And it's been great to have you on the podcast today. Now, one last question for you. If you could have done a different career where you were in control of it, you could have done anything else that you wanted to do, what would you have done?
Oh, that's a great question. I went to school and I wanted to be a gym teacher or a chartered accountant. But I was too dumb in school to be able to achieve that. You know, you had to graduate from school to be a gym teacher, and you had to graduate from school to be a chartered accountant. But I look back and you know what, Rick? I would have loved to have been a gym teacher and a coach. You know, if I missed something, now I think being a chartered accountant, like I really love numbers, and I read balance sheets like for fun because I really love numbers, and
Right.
and I've actually took some accounting courses and finance courses. And you know, if you're in business, I'll tell you, you got to keep score, which means you got to read the numbers. And so in business, I keep score. I treat it just like we're playing a game and we're keeping score. But you know what, Rick? Yeah, I look back and say, you know, maybe it's not too late. Maybe someone would hire me to be a gym teacher and a coach, and that would be absolutely fantastic.
Well, listen, Ron, thank you very much for spending time on the Mayor of Money podcast series with me today. I think everybody that's been watching and listening has got a great glimpse into a great person and a great achiever and a great humanitarian, and they would have learned a lot from our discussion today. So thanks to everyone for listening and watching. We look forward to receiving suggestions from you as to future guests and topics I should feature on the Mayor of Money podcast. But thank you, Ron. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And remember to stay positive and test negative.
Thank you for listening to the Mayor of Money podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. If you'd like to have a one-on-one discussion with Rick or have an idea for a particular guest or topic, contact him at rick@rickgoldring.com. See you next time on the Mayor of Money podcast.